there's a term in, I believe it's a term in psychology, probably used in economics as well, referred to as confirmation bias. And that's when somebody's doing research or they're looking for a question, an answer to a question, and they find the answer that they're looking for and they stop looking. And I think it's always a danger sometimes when people don't consider all the information available and consider both sides of the issue. And as an employee of Concord, my job is to try to do fair and balanced research and provide people with information so they can weigh the issue and decide what they want to do. And I just wanted to ask Gordon, I mean, you've now started a new think tank, and so you're sort of, clearly you believe, like I do, that information and research matters, that we can help shape public opinion and shape policymakers' views on what they should do, whether it's a matter of stopping them from doing bad things or encouraging them to do the right things. But I guess let me ask your sort of broader perspective. I mean, what do you think the role of think tanks like ours are, and in terms of helping shape public opinion and moving policy in the right direction? How important is that? How effective do you think that is? Do politicians and reporters and the public, care about reading about both sides of the issue, or are they susceptible, like most people or a lot of people, and they're just looking for the answer that they want to find? They'll point to the study that supports their conclusion and dismiss anything that disagrees with them. And what are your thoughts on that topic?
So I'll walk back from sort of the end state, which as you said was to sort of shape public policy. So if the goal is to shape public policy, then we have to do that through through the means through which policy is made, which is our political system. And as we know, we have fairly entrenched politics, and so big segments of the country will not change their minds on a lot of issues. And so if that's a given, then you just have to accept the fact that, right or wrong, there will be a constituency for bad research on the right and the left, no matter what. And there are institutions that will satisfy that demand inexorably, and each side has has their respective cheerleaders in media and elsewhere. So that's just a given, and we can look around the landscape and see those. But that there remains persuadable folks who do ultimately influence the policy debate. And kind of as I talked about at the beginning, that's a space that I've often found myself in, which is when you can have, I think, more nuanced discussions about policy. You acknowledge trade-offs. So while I recognize the limitations of research, I recognize the limitations of think tanks to shape public policy. I don't think, I mean, it is just simply not the case that public policy is solely a function of good research. It's not. I think if we look at the state of public policy, we couldn't conclude that it's a function of entirely of good research. But I do think it matters, and particularly on the margin, and in particular on a critical and dispositive group of folks who are open to some degree of trade-off and compromise. And while that sort of center, and it doesn't have to be the center politically, it can just be the center of a given debate, can be moved by research. But again, to shape that debate, that research can't be locked up in a faculty lounge somewhere, right? Like, you have to be able to articulate it. You have to be able to reach audiences. It has to matter for that debate. And that's another challenge, because if you start, the more you reduce the research to a popular audience, you lose nuance. So it's a very tricky balance. And I think, that's all of our jobs, is to strike that balance between connecting the findings of the research community to policymakers. It's something that I'm trying to do. I know it's something that you guys work on.